Incredible rescue reveals 3 heartwarming moments as brave heroes save Mother Kangaroo from Python. Summer afternoons in the idyllic suburbs were made for laughter and picnics, but no one expected this. As families gathered under the shade of sprawling oak trees, the air suddenly crackled with panic. A mother kangaroo, desperate and frightened, found herself trapped by a large python, each flick of the snake's tongue a chilling reminder of danger. Gasps filled the air as the unfolding scene sent shockwaves through the community. Among the crowd, Julia stood, her heart pounding. The vibrant sun cast playful shadows on her 2 spirited children. Danny, her 10-year-old whirlwind of energy, peered through the throng, his eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination. With a spark kindled in his chest, one born from endless stories of bravery passed down by his father, he rallied his friends, shouting, "We can save her. We have to." And just like that, a hero was born. The moment echoed like a rallying cry, drawing in neighbors and passers-by alike. Danny began sketching out a plan, barking out ideas while adrenaline surged through the adults. Julia felt torn. Her heart swelled with pride at her son's courage, yet a tightness gripped her chest. She wanted to support his daring ambition, but worry clawed at her thoughts. What if he got hurt? The tension hung thick, an invisible line separating panic from the determination brewing in the crowd. Julia scanned the faces around her tension-creased foreheads, fear flickered in eyes. Cracks began to show in their picture-perfect lives, revealing insecurities lurking beneath the surface. Just then, Mr. Thompson, the neighborhood's resident veteran, emerged from the shadows. His deep voice carried authority, holding the gazes of the many and inspiring a strange calm. "I know what to do," he said, surprising even himself. Connections he'd hidden in the past began to surface, revealing ties to wildlife rescues long forgotten. As he stepped forward, Julia felt a glimmer of hope spark in her heart. He recounted tales of his own encounters with snakes, a hero in his own right. The weight of his experiences reminded her that true bravery wasn't just in bold actions but also in understanding and empathy. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, tensions escalated. Danny's friends gathered, ready for action, excited by the thrill of the challenge. The adults, however, exchanged worried glances, wrestling with doubts. Julia's heart ached. Did she have the strength to let her son step into this chaotic scene, a place where courage met the wild unknown? Amid the noise and despair, the figure of the python loomed large, ready to strike. The absence of her late husband weighed heavily on Julia. Would she let go of the past just enough to support her son in this moment? As Mr. Thompson led the hesitant group closer, the final image of the python, poised to attack, lingered. Would this community unite to protect not only the mother kangaroo, but also each other amid their fears? Julia felt herself on the edge of a new beginning, a moment brimming with hope yet shadowed by uncertainty. What would they choose? The crowd shifted, whispers of uncertainty rippling outward. Julia could feel her heart racing as she locked eyes with Danny. His determination felt palpable, contagious even. But the python, large and menacing, reminded her of all the dangers lurking in the world. "Mom? We have to do this," Danny urged, his youthful voice filled with an excitement that only a brave spirit could conjure. Julia felt a flutter of pride, mixed with sheer terror. His conviction sparked something deep within her, a blend of hope and worry that took her breath away. "Okay, sweetie," she whispered. Her courage felt fragile, yet it soared with her son's enthusiasm. Mr. Thompson led the charge, his gray hair catching the sun as he advanced with purpose. Julia, seizing her moment, joined him at the forefront. "Let us form a line," she called out, rallying the adults behind her. The request felt audacious, but courage had a way of emboldening even the most hesitant. Neighbors rushed forth, hands joined as they formed a human shield between the python and the kangaroo. Sensing every heart beating as one, Julia felt a surge of unity flood over the group. Fear still lingered, but it had transformed into determination. Laughter erupted from Danny's friends, who began gathering sticks and branches to create distractions. They were ready to fight for the vulnerable life before them. The mother kangaroo responded to their efforts. She took a cautious step back, her gaze darting anxiously between her captor and the crowd. With each movement, hope intermingled with the fear of the deadly predator still lurking behind her. "We need a diversion," Mr. Thompson called out. The crowd erupted into action, tossing sticks, shouting, creating a cacophony to distract the serpent. Julia's heart raced for her son as he grabbed a long branch, proving himself a little hero in the making. But his small courage felt monumental. "You can do this, buddy," she shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. Danny glanced back at her, eyes shining with a fierce resolve. It mirrored her own inner battle should she be terrified or utterly proud. Just then, the python, startled by the sudden noise, shifted its focus. It uncoiled, darting towards the chaos. Danny's friends let out squeals of both fear and excitement, rushing to execute their plan. In that moment, Julia understood. This wasn't just about saving the kangaroo, it was about discovering the strength buried in their community, in herself and in her son. Each person present was facing a fear head-on, channeling their emotions into something larger than themselves. Finally, with a last push from the group, Mr. Thompson shouted, "Now!" They threw rocks, clapped their hands, creating a roar loud enough to scare the python back into the underbrush. The mother kangaroo took the chance and bounded away, her powerful legs propelling her to safety. Relief washed over the crowd, laughter breaking through the tension. Danny jumped up and down, joy written across his face. But as the thrill of their shared victory set in, Julia felt an unsettling twist in her heart. The python, now retreating but still lurking in the shadows, would always remain a threat. "Did we win?" Danny asked, eyes bright with hope, but she sensed a deeper question lingering beneath the surface. And as they all slowly celebrated the rescue, an unanswered question hung in the air: how far would they go to protect their community from future dangers? As the excitement settled, Julia felt her adrenaline gradually fade, but a sharp sense of vigilance took its place. The python's retreat was not a guarantee of safety, it was only a pause. She gathered Danny close, clutching his shoulder, keeping him anchored to the present. "Let us make sure everyone gets home safe," she urged, glancing around at their neighbors who still seemed to buzz with the thrill of victory. The recent chaos had brought them together, but she knew the danger wasn't fully over. Mr. Thompson, catching her gaze, stepped forward with a steady voice. "All right, folks, let us stick together and get back to our homes. We need to share what just happened and keep our eyes peeled." His expression was both resolute and kind, reminding Julia that leadership didn't always come from the loudest voice. As they began to disperse, Danny pulled away slightly. "Mom, can we go after the kangaroo? She needs to get back to her baby." His excitement was infectious, but Julia's heart tightened. The thought of chasing after a wild animal felt reckless now, unwarranted even. "Sweetheart, she'll be all right. The crowd scared the snake away, and she knows how to find her way back," Julia reassured him, trying to balance his enthusiasm with reality. "But what if she just stays lost?" His brow furrowed, and she could see the gears turning in his young mind. "Sometimes we have to trust that nature knows what it's doing," she replied, her certainty flickering as she spoke. The laughter and chatter from their neighbors echoed out, bringing a semblance of normalcy back to the air. Julia felt a weight lift just as another shadow loomed. The threat of the python weighed heavy on her thoughts. "We have to look out for the others, buddy," she finally added. Reluctantly, Danny nodded, but not without casting a last glance toward the underbrush where the kangaroo had disappeared. As the crowd walked back towards town, a sense of satisfaction washed over Julia. It was more than just protecting the kangaroo, it was about facing life's challenges together. Each face in the gathering reflected the same realization: their power surged as a community, united against adversity. Suddenly, a shrill cry shattered the air. Look out! Someone shouted. Panic rose again as they turned. A young girl had tripped over a root, and her friends rushed to her side. Julia's heart stalled for a split second. It felt like a cruel twist, the thrill of rescuing one creature only to witness another in distress. Without thinking, she ran toward the group, Danny trailing closely behind. Heezy, are you okay? A friend knelt beside the girl. Julia could see the tears in Heezy's eyes, her scraped knee painting the scene with fresh worry. Julia knelt down beside them. I've got some treats at my house. Would a cookie make you feel better? The words spilled out instinctively, and she felt a warmth spread among the friends that reassured her even in the face of fear. Yeah. Heezy sniffed, her expression brightening. As they tended to her, Julia couldn't shake the feeling that danger loomed closer, ever ready to strike when they least expected it. It served as a reminder that every victory comes with its shadows waiting just beyond the immediate light. Mom, do you think? Danny started, the concern etched on his face mirroring the question swirling in Julia's mind. Before he could finish, there was rustling in the bushes nearby. The tension hung thick in the air again, a question as urgent as the moment itself. What lay hidden in the shadows now? And as they all turned, anticipation thrumming in their chests, Julia couldn't help but wonder how could they confront the next challenge lurking just out of sight. The rustling continued, an unsettling sound that ignited a pit of anxiety in Julia's stomach. She stood taller, a protective instinct surging through her. The group around her held their breath, eyes wide and scanning the brush where the noise originated. What is it? Danny whispered, squeezing her hand tightly. Julia could see his fear mirrored in the faces of the other children. Tension crackled among them, heightened by the recent chaos. Let us stay calm, Mr. Thompson's voice rang out again, anchoring the group. It could just be a squirrel or even a bird. But his steady tone lacked the conviction everyone needed to hear. Then, with a sudden burst, a small figure bolted from the underbrush, caught in a moment of pure panic. It was the kangaroo. She bounded into the clearing, energy radiating from her. Julia's breath caught in her throat, she quickly glanced at Danny. His eyes widened, a range of emotions flashing across his face. She's back! He exclaimed, a mix of relief and excitement spilling over as they watched the kangaroo scan her surroundings frantically. The little creature's fur glistened under the setting sun, the definition of wild grace. But then realization struck Julia as she observed the mother's distress. Oh no, where's her baby? Julia breathed, dread pooling in her heart. If the mother appeared lost, her Joey could be in danger too. Before she could think, Danny surged forward, his youthful heart racing. Mom! We have to help her. He voiced out what was still buried deep in Julia's own thoughts. She felt a swell of pride, but also fear. Could they really intervene again? In a heartbeat, the other children regrouped around her, the promise of a new adventure glowing in their eyes. Let us find the baby! One girl shouted, her spirit contagious. Julia felt the tide of courage rising within her, catching on the enthusiasm of her son and the other kids. Okay. But we have to be quiet and patient. Julia instructed, the weight of leadership settling on her shoulders. With cautious steps, they fanned out a little, keeping a close eye on the anxious kangaroo who paced in small circles, seemingly searching for her lost Joey. Every rustle of leaves became amplified, the imagined threats tugging at them as they ventured into the thick shrubbery. Julia led the group, heart hammering with the weight of responsibility. She paused often to listen, trying to hone in on any sound that might lead them to the baby. Do you see anything? She whispered to Danny, who shook his head, his brow furrowed with concern. It's okay. We'll find it, she reassured him, though a tight knot of fear gripped her heart. The children remained focused, their eyes darting, listening intently. Suddenly, a soft whimper broke through the rustling foliage, undeniably small and fragile. Julia's heart leaped. Did you hear that? She whispered urgently. The kids nodded, and with newfound determination, they pushed deeper into the thicket. As they neared the sound, Julia felt a rush of warmth. Hope was flickering brightly in her chest. When they finally caught sight of a tiny bundle nestled at the base of a tree, a collective gasp escaped them. "There it is!" Danny shouted, his voice reverberating through the trees. But before they could get closer, Julia raised her hand for silence. The last thing the baby needed was chaos. "Let me try to get it," she said softly, inching forward. There was an instinct inside her urging her to comfort the little one, to bring it back to its mother. As she moved, the mother kangaroo approached, her eyes fixed on Julia with a mixture of trust and need. Julia held out her hands, a gesture filled with tenderness. The baby squirmed, eyes blinking against the sunlight. With careful movements, she reached down, her heart thrumming wildly. Would the little one recognize her, or would it flee? Yet the joey didn't move. It looked at her through questioning eyes, and that moment of connection, Julia felt the world around them shrink down to just her, the joey, and the expectant gaze of the mother. A bond formed, a mutual understanding that they were all part of something larger, a circle of protection, hope, and love. Then, without realizing it, Julia started singing a soft tune under her breath, an old lullaby her mother used to sing. The gentle notes somehow wove through the tension, relaxing the young kangaroo as it eased into her hands. And just like that, Julia knew no matter the hurdles ahead, moments of wonder and connection would always shine through. But as she looked up at Danny, a shocked expression played on his face. "Mom, look!" he exclaimed. Before she could respond, something darker shifted in the shadows near the tree. The rustling resumed, ominous and predatory. What had returned to seek the baby kangaroo now? Julia's heart raced at Danny's warning. She glanced back, the warmth she felt moments ago morphing into a chilling realization. The shadows shifted, revealing a long, sleek body, glistening in the fading light. The silhouette of a python emerged, its eyes locked onto the tiny joey, hunger evident in its every undulating movement. "No," Julia breathed. Panic surged through her. She had to protect the little one. The group held their breath, caught in a collective moment of terror. The eager shouts of excitement from a few moments ago faded into a heavy silence, replaced by the sound of the python's slow, deliberate movements through the underbrush. "Get back!" Julia commanded, instinct kicking in as she instinctively placed herself between the danger and the joey. Danny tugged on her shirt, trembling. Julia turned to him. "Stay close, but watch for my cue." With her heart pounding, she felt the rush of adrenaline course through her. The mother kangaroo watched, her eyes wide, entirely still except for the slight movement of her tail sweeping the ground. It was as if she were waiting for a signal. "Guys, we need to act fast," she whispered, strategizing quickly. "Someone needs to distract the snake. I'll get the joey and bring it back to its mother." The kids nodded, their faces pale yet resolute. "On three, we'll yell," Danny said, gathering strength from their shared fear. 1, 2, 3. The children shouted in unison, a chorus of young voices piercing the stillness of the woods. To her surprise, the python hesitated. Its tongue darted out, tasting the air. In that brief moment, Julia rushed forward. She reached down and scooped up the joey, feeling its fragile weight in her hands. The baby kangaroo squirmed a bit, but her comforting lullaby seemed to soothe it. "I've got you," she murmured, feeling fierce determination overshadow her fear. Just then, the python shifted again, clearly agitated by the noise. It slithered forward, muscles coiling, ready to strike at the sudden movement. "Now!" Julia shouted, her voice filled with urgency. The children continued their shouts, moving sticks and snapping branches, creating more chaos to distract the predator. Julia took a step back, hugging the joey close to her own body. The python lunged, but as it did, the tension in the air shattered. Julia sprinted backwards, her eyes darting towards the flurry of movement and noise created by the kids. She felt the adrenaline kicking in, propelling her forward. The gang of children flanked her, creating a wall of bodies between the python and the safety of the clearing. "Over here!" one child yelled, waving a shirt as a distraction. The python diverted its gaze, drawn away by the movement, and Julia seized the moment. She bolted toward the mother kangaroo, heart pounding, legs burning with effort. Quickly, Mom. Danny encouraged, his heart racing in sync with hers. With a final desperate lunge, Julia reached the mother kangaroo. She gently placed the joey into the safety of its mother's pouch. The mother instinctively enfolded her baby, and Julia exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding, but the relief was fleeting. The python, still hungry and agitated, turned back toward them, eyes gleaming like dark jewels. The rustling was louder now, more frantic. Julia's eyes met Danny's, understanding flowing between them like electric currents. "We can't stay here," she hissed, pulling on Danny's arm. The other kids looked at her, panic rising again. They weren't out of danger yet. "Run," Julia urged, and they all turned to flee, hearts racing as they left behind the confrontation, but the question lingered, would the python follow them into the dense woods? As they sprinted deeper into the thicket, adrenaline surged within each of them, and a desperate hope blossomed. They had each other. They had worked together against a greater threat. But what new dangers awaited them in the shadows of the trees? And was the baby kangaroo truly safe? The crunch of twigs underfoot echoed like thunder in Julia's ears as the group plunged deeper into the wooded maze. Every rustle from behind sent jolts of fear coursing through her body, like lightning striking without warning. She could feel the weight of the joey's soft fur against her chest, a solid reminder that they had to keep moving. "Faster," she urged, her breath coming in quick bursts. The children increased their pace, eyes wide and desperate. There was an electric energy shared among them, a silent understanding that their safety relied on their quick thinking and unity. "Where do we go?" Danny shouted, glancing back occasionally, worry etched on his face. Julia's heart raced, searching for an answer as they wove between trees like dancers caught in a frantic routine. Ahead, she spotted a thicket of bushes and rocks that could provide cover. "There." She pointed, her voice strong despite the tremors of panic. They dashed toward the makeshift shelter, limbs unable to quiet their urgency. As they dove into the thicket, the close walls of leaves felt like a cocoon hiding them from the harsh world beyond. Julia pressed her back against the thick trunk of a tree, holding her breath as the sounds of chaos faded into the distance. "Did we lose it?" Danny gasped beside her. The other kids, panting hard, looked equally shaken but determined. Their wide eyes penetrated the darkness as if the shadows could deliver an answer. A few moments passed, the silence wrapping around them like a warm blanket, but Julia knew better. The python was relentless, and their only hope was to stay quiet and committed to the bond they had formed. Then, a soft whimper cut through the stillness. Julia turned her attention back to the joey, who was shaken and sniffing. "Shoo, little one," she cooed softly, stroking its head with a gentle hand. Its tiny nose twitched as it nestled closer, seeking comfort in the rhythmic beating of her heart. The moment was touching an instinctual bond deeper than words. Julia felt an overwhelming wave of tenderness and protection wash over her. "We'll get you back to your mom," she whispered, more to reassure herself than the fragile joey. Suddenly, a sound made her heart drop into her stomach, a faint slithering, like leaves being pushed aside. It was coming closer. "Everyone, quiet," she whispered fiercely. The group huddled tighter, breaths held as if they were on the edge of a cliff. Each second felt like an eternity. Julia could feel her own heart racing fiercely, but she remained focused, praying they were hidden well enough. But the python's presence loomed larger. Just then, Danny reached out, gripping her hand. His fear was palpable, and in that grasp, they found strength together. Julia squeezed back, a silent promise to protect him and push through whatever came next. "Look," one girl whispered, pointing beyond the tangle of branches. A flash of movement, a dark, slithering shape entered Julia's view. The python was searching, muscles rippling as it scanned the ground, scanning for anything it could devour. They all held their breaths, hearts pounding in synchrony. "If it finds us," Danny's eyes widened in horror. "We won't let that happen," Julia vowed, determination burning inside her. Just then, something stirred in the depths of her memory. She remembered a lesson from her favorite nature documentary: pythons were often attracted to movement. We need to distract it, she murmured, adrenaline igniting a plan. Let us use whatever we can to create noise and lead it away. The other kids quickly gathered sticks, pebbles, and anything they could find, nodding in agreement. On three, Julia said, her voice firmer now. 1, 2, 3. They all hurled their makeshift projectiles in various directions, the sound echoing through the trees. The python snapped its head towards the noise, darting in the opposite direction, giving them just the opportunity they needed. Go, go, go. Julia urged as they shot out of their hiding place, sprinting again, hearts racing anew. What lay ahead? They were still not safe. Would their desperate bid for safety lead them to more danger? Julia couldn't help but wonder if they truly had left the python behind, or if it was still on their trail. The trees seemed to close in as Julia and the children dashed forward, the wind whipping their hair back like a banner of survival. Each step reverberated with the memory of the python's proximity, the fear morphing into desperation. They couldn't stop now, not when freedom felt within reach. After that, one of the girls shouted, pointing to a narrow opening that led deeper into the woods. Julia recognized it as a familiar path they had taken on a school field trip, a route that zigzagged toward the creek. It seemed risky but also a flicker of hope. Let us go. Julia urged, her voice stronger now, drawing on every ounce of bravery she could muster. They veered towards the creek, the chuckle of rushing water a lifeline in the chaos surrounding them. As they ran, laughter bubbled among them, a release from tension they hadn't realized they needed. Tiredness crept in, but they pressed on, chasing the sound of safety. The joy of unity wrapped around their hurried steps, reminding them that they were facing this storm together. Do you think we lost it? Danny panted, glancing back, hope flickering in his eyes. Not yet, Julia replied, though her own pulse raced at the thought. Just keep moving. We have to get to the creek. Finally, they reached the edge. The water glistened under the dappled sunlight, inviting yet daunting. Would it conceal them well enough? Here. Julia spotted a fallen log across the water, an imperfect bridge but one they could use to cross. She felt a wash of relief as she recalled another lesson from her favorite documentary. Pythons preferred to hunt in dry terrain. They needed to be close to water, but they also needed to be careful. Stay low. Quiet, she instructed, moving first, balancing herself on the log, every heartbeat a reminder of their urgency. One by one, the children followed, their small bodies doing their best to mimic her movements. The log creaked under their weight, the sound making Julia's heart skip. But they had to trust her. As the last child stepped off the log, relief coursed through her, but it was short-lived. They were still not safe. Suddenly, a rustle beyond the trees caught her off guard. The python might have been waiting on the other side. A shiver ran down her spine as she turned to see the children clinging to one another, their faces pale and worried. We should find cover, Julia whispered fiercely. They hadn't come this far just to be caught now. By those boulders. She nodded toward a cluster of rocks to their left. With swift determination, the group darted toward the boulders, their breaths mingling with the gentle sounds of nature, masking their panic. Julia's mind raced, scanning their surroundings. She needed a plan not just for herself but for all of them. Okay, she said as they crouched behind the rocks, catching their breath. We'll stay here, regroup, and figure out how to get back to the trail. We can't risk being caught again. Trembling, they nodded, holding their positions tight. The thought of the python slithering just behind them was terrifying, but amidst the fear, a bond had blossomed, a shared promise to protect one another. One child tugged at Julia's sleeve. What if it finds us? His wide eyes were full of all the fears they were trying to knock down. Then we'll be ready, Julia replied, trying her best to infuse him with resolve. We stand together. We fight. We survive. Just as her words hung in the air, a sudden screech echoed through the trees, sharp and filled with panic. The noise seemed to surge through the group, freezing them in terror. What was that? Danny whispered, his voice wavering. I don't know, but we need to go. Julia's heart raced again, urgency flooding her veins. The sound had come from the other side of the boulders. Before she could take stock of the consequences, she led the way, glancing back at the children, bracing for a western adventure they never asked for. But the reality gripped at her mind. What lurked beyond? Would this be the moment they discovered something unimaginable or encounter yet another danger? They took a deep breath as they prepared to dive into the unknown. As Julia and the children edged toward the boulders, the echoes of the screech hung in the air, an ominous reminder of what they were facing. Each small step felt like a leap into the unknown, where danger and discovery lay thick like the tangled underbrush around them. She could sense the children's anxiety vibrating through the silence, and it made her stomach churn. "Stay close, and keep your voices low," she whispered, her tone barely above a breath. The urgency of the moment pressed on her, as she pushed down her own fear for the sake of the kids. They crept carefully behind the rocks, where shadows draped over them and the sun struggled to break through. As they huddled together, Julia stole a glance over the top of the boulders. A sudden chill ran through her, the screech was stronger, closer, and it resonated with a kind of desperation that terrified her. What if it was another animal? Danny whispered, his voice trembling but edged with curiosity. He was trying to make sense of the chaos, and Julia appreciated his bravery, even if it didn't ease her own mind. "Let us find out," she replied, a surge of adrenaline pushing her to lead. Squaring her shoulders, she signaled for them to follow and peered around the rock. In the clearing ahead, a frantic movement caught her eye. A mother kangaroo, her eyes wide with fear, just a few paces away. Julia's heart sank as she spotted the python coiling around the unfortunate creature's leg, its scaled body glistening in the filtered sunlight. "Look!" She turned her head back quickly, excitement mixed with horror. "We've got to help her." "Help her?" One of the kids squeaked, voice rising in alarm. "Yes." She knew how ridiculous the idea sounded, but something about it felt imperative. The kangaroo and her joey needed them, and they couldn't turn away. "We can't let it happen. We have to do something." They all exchanged glances. The seriousness of their task felt heavy in the air. Julia took a deep breath and scanned the ground for potential weapons. A sturdy branch lay nearby, just behind the boulders. "Danny, grab that stick. The rest of you, look for anything we can use." The kids scattered, fueled by adrenaline and a growing sense of purpose. Julia's heart swelled as she saw their resolve and courage matching her own. It reminded her of the day they had learned about ecosystems and the importance of protecting all creatures. She only hoped that knowledge would translate into action. Danny handed her the branch, his small hands trembling but fierce. Julia steadied her grip, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "On 3, we'll all shout," she declared, her voice iron solid. "It may startle the python, and it will distract it from the kangaroo." One by one, the kids nodded hesitantly but resolutely, magic weaving through the air as a surge of confidence enveloped them. 1, 2, 3. "Get away from her!" they shouted, the sound echoing across the clearing with fervent energy. Julia swung the branch fiercely in the direction of the python, her heart racing not just in fear, but with fierce determination. The python reared back, momentarily startled, and the kangaroo took that chance to leap forward, freeing herself from its grasp. Julia's breath caught as the mother kangaroo turned to her children and bounded away into the safety of the trees. "Did we really do that?" one of the girls gasped, wide-eyed and breathless. "Yes." Julia laughed, feeling a wave of relief wash over her, a surge of joy she hadn't expected. "We helped her." Yet, their victory felt fleeting. As the excitement ebbed, the realization that they had only temporarily pushed their adversary away hit Julia hard. The reality of the lurking python reminded her that their journey was still fraught with danger. "Now we need to get back," she said, her eyes scanning the area cautiously. "Let us stick together and keep moving." As they moved deeper into the woods, an unsettling thought nagged at her. What if the python returned? What if they encountered more danger ahead? With a sense of trepidation whispering in her ear, Julia led the group onward, still haunted by the remnants of their encounter. Would they find a way back to safety, or had they only opened the door to further encounters with the unseen threats of the forest? As they quietly pushed through the dense foliage, Julia felt each rustle of leaves wrap around them like a fragile secret. The girls were still buzzing with excitement, recounting their victory. Their eyes sparkled, but Julia sensed the thread of fear lurking just beneath the surface. "Do you think the python will come after us?" Danny asked, glancing over his shoulder. His bravery had flared bright during their earlier rescue, but now, in the thickening woods, doubt clouded his youthful face. I don't know," Julia admitted, swallowing hard. Their earlier bravery felt like a warm memory now, fading under the weight of uncertainty and the sound of the forest slowly closing in. "Let us just focus on getting back," she said, putting on a brave face as she tried to lead them along the safest path. Each step felt heavier, a reminder of the very real danger that lurked in the shadows. They continued onwards, weaving through the towering trees, their branches swaying and whispering, casting flickering shadows around them. Julia's heart raced, echoing the deep pulse of the forest. With every crack of a branch or sudden rustle in the underbrush, she felt them all tense up, drawing closer together. "Maybe we should have checked what happened to the python," one of the girls suggested timidly. "What if it's now hunting us?" "Let us not think like that," Julia said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "We did what we could, and no one got hurt. That's what matters." Her words hung in the air, but she could see by their expressions that reassurance only partially eased their worry. She should have known they would worry about leaving something so dangerous behind. The forest was alive with mystery, and it was more than the thrill of adventure, it bore the weight of uncertainty, and cloaked their path with shadows. "Look!" Danny shouted suddenly, halting the group. He pointed toward a thicket of bushes where the sun barely reached. Julia squinted through the dimness. There, amidst the tangled vines and leaves, lay the glint of something metallic. "What is that?" another child asked, curiosity mingled with apprehension. "Let us check it out," Julia said, feeling a mixture of excitement and dread. She motioned for them to stay close and started towards the thicket, pushing aside the jagged branches. The children followed, eyes wide as they pressed in beside her. As they drew nearer, they could see the metallic object was a reflective piece of old junk, something maybe from a stray camping gear or an abandoned backpack left behind long ago. But it was the sight of something else that made Julia's breath catch. There, nestled close to the scrap, lay a small, trembling creature. It was a baby kangaroo. Its eyes were wide, its tiny body shivering and vulnerable among the debris. Julia's heart sank again. Was this little one left behind by the mother? "Poor thing," she murmured, crouching down slowly, mindful not to scare it. "What do we do?" Another split-second moment of panic surged through the group. But then she felt a spark within her, a painful yet powerful need to help. "Come on, let us see if we can comfort it," she said, nudging Danny and the others into action. They huddled close, gingerly reaching out their hands, as Julia spoke softly to the terrified creature. Just then, a loud rustle broke through the stillness, and a shadow loomed above them, a sudden reminder that danger was never far away. "Julia!" Danny exclaimed, his voice tightening. She looked up, heart racing, to see the glistening body of the python emerging from the underbrush, its eyes glinting with hunger. Panic surged within her, pushing adrenaline through her veins. How could they save this little one now? As the python slithered closer, Julia knew this time their instincts had to do more than just help. They had to protect. But how would they manage to fend off a threat this big? "Stand back!" she shouted, facing the snake, ready to embrace their next courageous battle. Would their unity hold against the creature's relentless approach, or would they find themselves trapped in a cycle of fear? Once again? The python, its scales reflecting the waning light, approached with an insatiable hunger, its eyes focused on the trembling baby kangaroo nestled amid the scrap. Julia's heart hammered against her chest, and a primal instinct welled up within her. This time, they could not simply be heroes to one, they had to fight for all. "Everyone, grab anything you can find," Julia commanded, her voice filled with urgency. The children looked to her, panic flashing in their eyes, but quickly began scouring the ground for anything they could use. Branches, rocks, anything that could distract the looming predator. The python paused, assessing the chaotic scene. Julia felt the intensity of the moment, every second felt like an eternity. It considered the noise, the determined huddle of humans, and the abandoned Joey, innocent and unaware of its fate. "Danny, do you remember what we practiced? The noise to scare it?" Julia called out, locking eyes with her son. "Yes," he replied breathlessly. "On three." The other kids shifted with renewed energy, their fear morphing into a collective determination. 1, 2, 3. The roar of their voices echoed through the clearing, shouting together, waving their hands and sticks, a chorus of defiance against fear and danger. The python paused, momentarily confused by the sudden ruckus. Julia seized the opportunity and lunged forward, brandishing her branch, thrusting it towards the serpent with as much heart and strength as she could muster. "Get away from them!" she shouted, her voice resonating with the weight of their spirit and unity. The python recoiled, startled by the sudden movement and noise, and against all instincts, it turned its focus to Julia and the kids. This was no longer just about survival, it was a moment to reclaim their power against adversity. "Now! Into the bushes!" Julia urged, and they scrambled, making a chaotic but organized retreat, shifting like flowing water to the safety of the thick brush. They pushed through the undergrowth, every heartbeat pounding in rhythm with their collective effort. Julia could feel their fear but had ignited a fire of courage within each of them, a bond that none could break. As they ducked into the safety of the ferns, the python lost sight of them. Julia turned, her heart racing, gathering courage as she peered through the leaves. "We need a plan," she whispered, gathering every ounce of resolve and strength. Danny's eyes burned with fear, but he spoke up, "We could lead it away. Take it somewhere else. That's it. We need to distract it again. But this time, we'll do it together." Julia nodded, her heart swelling at his bravery. "Let us stick to the plan we made before. As a team." With the outline set, they chose a few who would remain behind to create enough sound to redirect the snake. The others would weave around the python's path to ensure it never regained focus. "Be brave, and be quick," Julia encouraged, adrenaline fueling her every word. Their fates hinged on the strength of their unity. Danny took a deep breath. This was his moment. He squeezed Julia's hand, a silent vow of bravery. "Let us go," he shouted, raising his stick high like a banner. The python, medium-sized but formidable, turned toward the sound, lunging with sudden swiftness. Julia felt the ground rush beneath her as she led the charge, hearts synchronized, a newfound force against the darkness. They darted through the trees, and the python twisted behind them, drawn closer to the cacophony of noise. As Danny and his friends began screeching and rattling sticks, Julia glanced back, her eyes filled with a protective fierceness. "Over here!" Julia shouted, positioning herself among the trees, directing the confusion further and further away from safety. Finally, their plan began to take shape. The python slithered past, enticed by the ruckus. The children propelled themselves like a wave towards safety, ever vigilant, hearts racing but comforted by the strength of unity. "Keep going," Julia urged, leading them toward an open clearing. They reached a small ledge that ascended slightly higher, the trees thinning to expose the open sky above. Before she could catch her breath, relief suddenly flooded through her as she caught sight of the mother kangaroo just beyond the clearing. "Look!" She pointed towards the creature as it grazed, its tranquil presence a powerful reminder of resilience in the face of chaos. With a final push, Julia and the kids darted beyond the ledge. The sounds of their earlier frustration dwindled into a soft chorus of laughter and relief. "We did it!" Danny exclaimed, eyes brightened by victory. They turned, witnessing the python retreating, overwhelmed by the chaos they had created in unity, its glistening body becoming a part of the forest's shadows once more. In a mix of laughter and tears, Julia gathered Danny close, her breath shaky but filled with a bittersweet triumph as the threat receded from their minds. They had come together not just to save a mother kangaroo, but to discover what being a community truly meant and how they could face life's unpredictable challenges when they pooled their hearts and strength. I'm so proud of you, buddy, Julia said, brushing away the tears of joy and relief. And as they watched the kangaroo and her baby bound freely into the distance, Julia felt a glimmer of hope dance within her, one that would carry them forward into every unknown that lay ahead. They were ready to embrace whatever challenges might come next. This was the moment where fear transformed into courage, and vulnerability transformed into a resilient unity to cherish forever. Now, here's where you come in. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every thumbs up makes a world of difference. Comment down below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation in action. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.